Hey everybody, I figured it would be easier to do this without students in the room. That way I could talk and walk you through it rather than the start, stop, start, stop. We're going to debrief our multiple choice from the mock exam today and use this sheet to kind of help us out. It may be helpful to you to get some tabs open on your computer. You probably need a tab with today's Canvas page, a tab with your grades in Canvas, a tab logged into AP Classroom, as well as this sheet. So we set up our mock exam multiple choice to mirror an actual AP exam as much as possible. And so I went for a total number of questions, 55. Normally, AP multiple choice would have 5 passages. Of course, because of the progress checks, we have more than 5. So if you take a look, we've split up here so that you can see that in the progress checks that we had, the Unit 7 one has 5 passages. The Unit 8 one has 3 passages. We want to mine some data out of AP Classroom. So over here, I have the tab open. And when you go to your progress check, here I have Unit 7 open. It defaults to this Skill Categories and Skills tab. Instead, click on the one that says Questions. And what you will get is one by one how you did. And you'll also see here that it'll give you a little bit to figure out what we're looking at. And so you notice here it says musical instrument, a musical instrument after these questions. They are all from the same passage. And so for this first one with a musical instrument, there's 7 questions that go with it. Over here on our sheet, Unit 7, Section 1, Passage 1, total number 7. You want to look at how many out of those 7 you got correct, and that's going to go in the number correct column. And then over here for type, this is where you want to look and see, hey, what is this passage? So if we click, it will bring it up for you. And you notice here, it's going to tell you it's a poem published in 1862. So we know that it's a pre-20th century poem. We want to put that here. Then we want to go through each passage and fill this out appropriately. How many total questions? How many did you get correct? And what type of passage? This is going to help us to figure out some of the trends and strengths and weaknesses that you have as a test taker. Do you tend to do better on pre-20th century or 20th century texts? Do you tend to do better on poetry or prose? We're going to be taking this test for the majority of you in person on paper. That means you can take it in any order you want. If we know that we're better at poetry and we know that we're better at pre-20th century poetry, guess what? We want to flip that test booklet open. We want to find those sections and we want to start there. Multiple choice success is based on score accumulation. And so we want to be working to our strengths. Taking the time to kind of unpack all of this is not only going to help you to see how many total questions you got correct, but it's also going to help you to see those trends. Where did you not do well? Where did you do well? We want to take that total number, your overall result here, and move it over to this score calculator that is linked on our Canvas page today. Normally, AP produces actual documentation that shows how they come up with that 1 to 5 score that you would get on the test and the impact that multiple choice and each essay has. But because of the new 6-point rubric, College Board has never released that documentation. We don't know how it's going to be weighted. We don't know how it totally affects the score. So this calculator attempts to take what data it has, specifically what we know the multiple choice is worth as a weight, 45% compared to the 55% for the essays, and tries to figure out what's your predicted score. So we want to fill this out. So we're going to take that total number of multiple choice and pop it here. We're then going to come here and look for each of the essays on our mock exam. This is where your grades tab is going to be helpful. If you kept that Canvas grades tab open like I asked you to, you can go there. And for each essay, when you click on it, in the top right, you're going to look for a little thing that says rubric. And when you open it up, you're going to notice, hey, every essay that we've done has a rubric attached to it. And what that rubric shows is this 6-point scale done up. So first, column A is based on your thesis. Row A, column A, whatever on the rubric. I use 5 points just to help to illustrate the quality of your thesis a little bit more. If you're looking at that score, a 3, 4, or 5 on row A for thesis is going to get you 1 point out of 6 here. We're going to add 4 points from row B. This is your evidence and commentary. And then that 6 point is going to come in from the sophistication point on that rubric. This will help you to figure out what score we need to put here. And once we plug those numbers in, we're going to be able to see, hey, what's your predicted AP score? If we look here with this, I go here to 28, bump these up. If a student gets roughly half of the multiple choice correct, as well as at least 4 points on each of the essays, we can predict that student is going to get a 3, which is a passing score on this exam. A 4 on each of these tells me that that student got the thesis point and then took advantage of 3 out of 4 points on row B. They probably didn't get the sophistication piece. And so if we're at a 4 and we get half of the multiple choice, hey, we're in line to get college credit likely. That's good news. We've said that one thing we want to keep in mind, though, is that our goal should be 60% of the multiple choice, not 50. Well, why? Let's say you don't have a really great day on AP test day, and you only get 3 points on your poetry question. Notice when I shift that, now all of a sudden the student's getting a 2. Because they lost 1 point on their essay, they're not getting college credit anymore. But if we bump this up and take it to about 33, that 1 point that you lost, we've now gained back your college credit by getting 60% of the multiple choice. 5 more questions. That's pretty significant. We can play with these numbers and we can do lots of things. One thing that you have to be aware of is that this is your predicted score, but it's not guaranteed. And it's based on our performance on the mock, but the mock isn't a true test. Remember that we did the mock over the course of 5 days, as opposed to if you came and sat for this AP test, you'd be in and out in about 4.5 hours. And so, you don't, with our mock, you had breaks, you had time to think, you knew what you were coming into to some degree. And so that could change your performance metric. Keep in mind too, that our multiple choice had more passages than normal. And so you might have gotten a better score because you didn't have as many questions over each passage. You may have done worse because it was more you had to read. There's a lot that you have to consider. The second thing that you really want to think about with this metric is that even though I can tell you that your predicted score here is a 3, every year you're not competing against the test. So how they qualify this 3 is different every year because you're competing on these AP tests against the kids that are taking the test. So if you have a year that there's a lot of strong performances, you have to perform stronger in order to maintain your score. It's tough and it's not fair. You should know that, but it's the system that we're in. With this, it gives us a view of how we're doing. But ultimately, we want to treat this mock exam as more than just a dipstick. If you think about an engine, I can pull the dipstick and see what the oil level is roughly. That just tells me how it's doing. We want to use this as a way to focus on improvement. We can do that with our document by digging into the data that we have. So if you look at the second page, well, even here at the bottom, I gave you a section to start to pull apart and to see, what do you notice trend-wise? Is there anything here we can take advantage of before we start to look at, hey, how can we improve our performance? This is not something I'm expecting you to be able to do today completely. Please don't spend a ton of time on this. If you have the first page done, I'm happy. We're good. This is where we can make a difference on your AP score because you have to understand, I can stand here and I can teach my butt off. Some of you don't even watch the videos, so I know, it's no fooling. Your work isn't great. We're going to talk about that this week because you don't change. Success on the AP test is really determined by your ownership. How much do you give in? How much do you work for the score that you want? If we take your incorrect answers and start to pull apart and give you a chance to justify, hey, if you missed this one, but this is the right answer, why? Can you explain why that one's right? And then can you also look at the skills that are covered? Now, AP Classroom is going to tell you the skills. For example, if we go back here, we know that this one is 3A. Question 2, identify and explain the function of a simile. We can find that simile. But is that really why you got it wrong? Because you didn't recognize a simile? Was it an issue of vocabulary? Did you misread the question? Did you second guess yourself? There's a ton of reasons why you could have gotten that wrong. I really want you to be able to see, what do you notice? Because if we can fix those mistakes and we can start to find your trends, we can improve your performance. And we saw the difference that 5 multiple choice questions can have. So if we can really dig in and correct our errors, we can make a huge impact on our performance going forward. This is what we want to use this for, a tool to improve, not simply a dipstick to see how we're doing. If you're interested, you can look to see, hey, if I was going to do if my overall score was going to be a 3, what kind of credit would that get me? Any university has a page that looks like this. A simple Google search for your college and then the phrase AP credit will take you to a page kind of like this one for UTA, where they list every AP test and they tell you, here's what you get for scoring well on that test. So here for lit and comp, you notice that if you get a 3 or 4 or 5, doesn't matter, you get the same credit. This is different than the credit that you would get here for taking the Lang test, last year's test. This is a freshman credit. You know that because it starts with a 1. This is a sophomore credit because it starts with a 2. You want to weigh, hey, what do different schools give me and what are different schools' requirements? Because you got to be aware, schools give different test grade, different credits based on this. I don't have it pulled up. But here, for example, on the Lang and Comp test, if you can get a 5, UTA will give you 2 classes. But if you get a 5 and you go to the University of Texas at Dallas, they only give you 1 class, not 2. And so you want to be aware, hey, can you take advantage of more credit by just going to a different university? It could really help if you're looking to keep money in mind. As we go through this week, we're really going to be decompressing this whole test to be able to see, how can we make it useful to you? How can we use it as a learning tool? And how can we improve your performance going forward?